Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Bling Bling Jam YouTube station. Today, I am interviewing my good friend. He is back by popular demand, and we have a lot of great stories, but some other stories too that we want to share with you today. But he is our magician, and he goes by Vlad Don Deitch. And I met Vlad back in the Society of American Magicians, where I held every position in Boston, and I was the vice president or the second vice president at the time that he moved down from New York. And we had a mutual friend that wanted to give up president. I didn't want to be president at the time. So Vlad became president because he was president of another club. And him and I just really hit it off. And then when he moved down to North Carolina, I became the president of the Society of American Magicians. And we've been in touch ever since. Vlad is an amazing character on so many levels. He started in the haunted community and was discovered by Jeff McBride into the magic community, if you will, and used to go to mystery school and did many different things and has been written up on so many different shows and all kinds of things. He even has a doll of himself. Some of you guys have heard the interview before from a couple years ago. It's on a different station. But for those listening, of course, this is on our new YouTube station. It's a little bit over a year old now for the Bling Bling Jam. So we hope that this, goes to many people that you can know Vlad a little bit better. He also runs his own convention. It's a group of them that do it as well. And there's a lot to share with you about Vlad. But first and foremost, I want to introduce him, and he's going to share with everybody who he is, where he's from, his business, what he does, and we'll trigger other questions and why he's excited to come to Bling Bling Jam while he'll be teaching there with us this year. So I'm just going to remove the pin and welcome Vlad to the call. Don Deitch.
Greetings.
Hello. He's Mr. Halloween, by the way, as we are. The theme is, I forgot to tell you, it's Summerween. We had him for Christmas in July, and we definitely wanted to bring him back for Summerween because he insisted on staying in the haunted hotel. So anyway,
And I
so
guess the next time I'll be back will be the Easter show. So, I've done Christmas and Halloween. So
that
next
was
one will be
funny.
Easter. Yeah.
Right, right.
Yep. Funicula. So,
I love that. I love that.
yep.
So Vlad, tell everybody that's watching, your career, the short run for people. Some know and some, but a lot don't that are watching this. Like kind of like how you started. This is all about you. How you started in the magic world, if you will, and how that became about. It's a very interesting story.
I'll try. Some probably won't care, but I'll go through it anyway.
The ones watching it that want to learn more about magic and
Yeah.
stuff and showmanship, you definitely have all that they'll care for sure. But
Well, it's like I tried to cover a little bit of everything. I mean, I started in the haunted attraction business, which it's called now. It used to be called the haunted house industry. Now, being that everything is immersive entertainment, it's become the haunted attraction industry. It's
how
like
is it?
because we've gone from like going to a location and standing in line for 3 hours to go through one house to there being haunted theme parks, much like the one that Universal Studios is creating in Las Vegas. They took the two activities that probably were huge financial like things for their company, which was the Halloween Haunted Nights, and I mean, they sort of extended them into September now. So it shows when a theme park is willing to dedicate most of their park from September into October and to the beginning of November, that it's financially beneficial for them. So I started that. I started out as a special effects person, which meant that I was in charge of doing makeup and working with lighting. And I worked on some 50-50 illusions. If you don't know what that is, that's what they used to use at carnivals to do the um, person to corpse or girl to gorilla, where they used to
Wow.
have somebody come in and they would see a girl in a bikini, and all of a sudden she would transition to a gorilla, and then all of a sudden the gorilla broke free and ran into the audience, and everyone would run out screaming. They were
Wow.
popular from like probably the 40s, into today. So I
Really?
went
Wow.
those like illusions and things, and the person that ran the haunted house was not only friends with Jeff McBride, but he was friends with Rudy Colby, and they both lived in the like up in the Dutchess County area, and so he knew them, and he said, you know what, you should probably meet Jeff, and I met Jeff, and he's like, you're doing illusions. He's like, even with the makeup and everything else and the lighting, you're doing illusions. So I'd like you to become part of mystery school. And I go, but I'm not a magician. And he says, well, you can become a magician. And I said, well, how do you do that? Don't you have to be like the seventh son of the seventh son and you're sworn into the secret? You put your hand on the book or you're brought out to the sacred grove by candlelight. And he goes, I wish it was that way. He's like, you go to meetings. And I go, okay. And he goes, and you sort of probably will find someone that will be willing to take you under their wing and teach you. I go, so you just show up at these meetings? And he goes, yeah. And I go, sounds sort of like AA, except without donuts.
Yeah.
He goes, kind of. And I'm like, okay. So, I started doing that. And I became part of, from the invitational mystery school, which wasn't announced. He wanted to do a dry run, and it ended up having Mundaka, Lisa Mena, Jade, Vito Lupo, um, Paul Harris, Eugene Berger, Bob Neal, um, Jeff, Max Maben, everybody at this thing. And,
Wow.
here I am really new to the magic world. So I knew those people as friends first before I knew where they were in the magical hierarchy. And so that started my path. And I started,
Wow.
spending time with Eugene and Max and created, my own persona. And I became part of what was at that point in time very beginnings of bizarre magic. The
Right.
problem with bizarre magic was a lot of it was, to be perfectly blunt, like sort of a literary exercise. There
Hmm.
was a really long, probably 10-page storyline that you would sort of enact, and it was about this curse and so and so. And then all of a sudden, at the end, of these like writings, a page would turn in a book. My thought is like, if people are going to sit there for that period of time, something more than a page has to turn.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they're going to check out.
Yeah.
They're done. The attention span is really short.
Hmm.
My degree is in communication and media arts, and I know about like how many seconds of an edit there is. So it's like I knew that, but it was like also in Bizarre Magic in the beginning, there were certain archetypes. There was like the sorcerer, the arcane professor, the Lovecraftian like occultist, and none of them really fit my persona because I didn't want to be a professor. I didn't, I mean, if I was going to do that, I would have become a mentalist, and just
Yeah.
run around with a clipboard. And I didn't want to do that. Um, so
I
I,
thought you were the professor sometimes from Harry Potter. Oh, you can, you can pull that off.
Professor Snape, yeah.
Yes.
Um, but I mean,
Yeah.
my passion was always like sort of like horror films.
Hmm.
And so I wanted to be like Vincent Price. So I wanted to be, something that was otherworldly. And I said, well, what about like a vampire persona? I said, because A, you already have sort of like arcane knowledge. You can move the weather, you can change into an animal, you can turn into mist, you can hypnotize people. And I go, in the world we live in, if you have to justify where your income comes from and you've been around for 1,000 years, what do you tell the IRS?
Hmm.
So I was like, well, if you're a vampire, you tell them you're a magician because A, you can just inherently do all the stuff that magicians are making believe they can do. And B, if you've been around for a long period of time, it would be probably pretty entertaining to play with the mundanes and have them believe that they're seeing a magic show, but you're doing it for real.
Hmm.
So I created this whole backstory of Vlad and did that, and sort of started working, and I did shows with Max Maven and Eugene Berger and Jeff, and got to do, um, I did Bard College, um, did the bank in New York City. I did the VIP premiere opening night for the for Clive Barker's Lord of Illusions for him and MGM Studios. And I've done a couple things like I created a convention in Myrtle Beach called the East
Yeah.
Coast Spirit Sessions,
You started that
which
the
is,
same year we started Bling Bling Jam, 2014, right?
yep.
Yep.
And it's a seance bizarre magic convention.
Hmm.
And then I created another convention with Vince Wilson up in Baltimore, which is Poe's Magic Conference, which was more bizarre magic storytelling. The one
Right.
in Myrtle Beach is bizarre magic, sort of mixed with seances. And the one in Baltimore is storytelling because we wanted people to understand that bizarre magic didn't have to be, if you didn't want to do something spooky, if you had a storytelling atmosphere to it and you did like Meadow Perry and did like bubble magic, you could still be comfortable at the convention because
Right.
there was a world she created why these bubbles are able to do what they do. And we had Hiawatha, and we've had a lot of other people come there that were storytelling magicians.
Right.
So hopefully that's not too long, but
No,
that's
no, no,
the
no, no,
that's
no.
where
It's
I'm
a
at.
lot. It is a lot of stuff, but let's. I know we're going to age ourselves here for a minute, but we've all been at this for a long time. It's funny when you mention Vita Lupo. I remember being at Lewis Chana Magic Camp at 10 years
Yep.
old and took his class and showing him my notes. Goes, wow, you took really good notes, and I was 10 years old. Like, talk about crazy, right? Or
And that's when I sort of like got into when Jeff brought me into the magic
yeah.
world was the years that I went to Tannins and they had one year was Harry Anderson and then
Hmm.
the other year was for Channing Pollock. But
Hmm.
if people don't know who Channing Pollock was, he was the dove magician that inspired Lance
Oh yeah.
Burton.
Oh yeah.
So, he was one of the first people that I think got Thurston's mantle, which was like sort of magicians bestowing the cape onto a magician, sort of passing the wand. I mean, I got the bizarre magic version of it because I got one of the Tony Andruzzi was one of the founding fathers of bizarre, and I never got to meet him. But at mystery school, Eugene Berger gave me a handcrafted scroll that Tony Andruzzi made for Eugene.
Wow.
And he's like, I'm going to give this to you. He's like, because A, you understand the meaning of it. He said, and B, if Tony met you, he would have wanted you to have it. So
Very
I was
nice.
passed on that. So,
Very nice. So, okay. So you started off in the haunt community, you got into magic, and
yep.
you started doing all these events. You started performing and doing paid gigs, I'm assuming, and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. And
And
I started in magic, like not, you were talking about dating ourselves.
you
I
don't have to
started
say the
out
date
in
and the year
magic
if you don't
in
want to.
I started out in magic in 1987, which
Yeah,
is probably like before some of the people that come to the convention were
yeah,
born. But
yeah. I graduated high school that year.
yeah,
I'm dating myself too.
that's it. See, you
That's
could have come like as graduation, you could have come to a haunted
Yeah.
house.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, that's so cool. That's so cool.
Yep,
So, okay. And then I know like you're such an interesting, and again, for the people watching this, of course, I and Vlad is going to watch this and love to see the comments and feedback and questions because a lot of people are just balloonists that watch this, and some are crossovers into magic and face painting and clowning and that kind of thing. And the reason why we've always had an element of magic at Bling Bling Gym, there's actually a magic wand on our logo if you look at the very bottom there. There we
yep,
go. Okay, we've always had magic and face painting. It's because I'm a magician and because it's an element of what we do. And a lot of people, and I know you know this, Vlad, in the balloon world they're just line twisters. They don't always want to learn how to entertain or create a show, and a lot of them don't know how to do that. Some do, some don't. So for the viewers watching this, understand that it may not be for you, but it might be, and but we always find other entertainers interesting, and boy, is Vlad interesting. I mean, I don't know a person who is as interesting as he is, was every time he tells his story, I was like, well, you didn't tell me this, you didn't tell me that, you find something new. And it's just the way Vlad is. And as you can tell by the names he's sharing with you, he's really intertwined and worked with some amazing people. And he's the type of person that wants to share with people and just give all his knowledge. So anyway, let's circle back to you though.
Those names, like,
Yeah.
not that, like, hopefully people don't think I'm name dropping, but
No,
it's like sort
no.
of like
Yeah. Right.
it's like I'm using those names as frames of reference so I don't have to
Yes.
do like a 20-minute dissertation about this. But I mean, it's like one of the things we have to think about is like sometimes like people go, I'm only a balloon twister, or I'm
Yeah.
just an architect. Is all of it is part of what's now termed, I mean, before it didn't have a term, but
Yeah.
it is now the world of immersive entertainment. And it's like if somebody wants something, people might not outwardly tell you, but they are expecting returns for their money. And
Yes.
if you are on as soon as you step out of the vehicle, instead of waiting 10 minutes before showtime, and when you come out, it's like that's no longer back in the day of Thurston and Dante, and
Yeah.
they were on as soon as someone saw
Yes.
them.
You're being watched. Correct.
They're being watched and
Yeah.
they expect it. And it's like that's why some of the magicians go, I don't really hang around after the show. But some of the ones back in the old days, Thurston used to hide in the bathroom
Yeah.
and listen to what people were saying about the show. And
Hmm.
you have to understand what the people are seeing and what they're doing. And if you can create, and it doesn't have to be huge, you could create a paragraph that is a backstory for your persona or performance character, and don't use the scapegoat of saying I perform as myself. They
Yeah.
want you to be bigger than you. When
Yes.
they're writing a check, they don't want Billy Bob. They
Right.
want the magical Mr. Billy Bob. They want something huge for their money. And
Yeah.
if you can just sort of bring it, make it a little grander, they are willing to pay more money.
Yeah.
That's what we're all hoping for, is to, like, you know, I'm not I'm not against anybody that says I just do this for a hobby or I do it part-time, because God bless them, because the people that produce products love them just as much as they love people that are doing this 9 to 5.
Oh, yeah. No, I
So
love. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So it's like we need to make sure that
Yeah.
like we are on as soon as there is a person around you.
Yeah.
I got dressed when I was wearing my normal, it was 110 degrees in Las Vegas last time I was there.
It'll be that hot again.
And
Yeah.
I was roaming Fremont Street in
Costume.
a velvet jacket with a tie, long sleeve shirt, and a vest.
Yes.
And people, I didn't say anything to anyone. One of the guys that was a street performer said, what time is your show?
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're telling them information about yourself. And it's like sort of like that's the actor thing, is like sort of like, can they define your character 2 minutes after you break the curtain?
Yeah.
Make sure they can pick something up about you and that they are able to put that. And you have to make sure that you don't break that, because that creates a red flag.
Yeah.
And that's why, sort of like, I'm friends with Todd Robbins.
Hmm.
I've been to some of his sideshow like lectures. Even though he would like it, I don't eat fire, just
Yeah.
because it goes against the framework of my
Of
pre-designed
your
character.
right. We're going to talk about a bunch of that in a minute too.
Yeah.
So I just want to intervene, and for everybody watching this.
Yeah. I'm
So,
just going to take a
oh
drink.
no, oh please, by all means. So, and Vlad and I have had, but he's John, but I call him Vlad. His characters, I always call him, just so you guys know. You can call him. He answers to either one.
Yeah.
But with that said,
Sometimes, hey, you, but
yeah, exactly. We've always had deep conversations after the magic meetings. We used to go to IHOP till 5 in the morning, just talk about all kinds of stuff. And but what we've been focused on, and I know you know this, Vlad, in the from our discussion on the balloon world and Bling Bling Jam in this station is circling back to you know explaining to people that, are worried that they don't have money for events, or they're doing whatever it is, and a lot of people that start off in balloons that were really excellent at balloons are now doing fortune telling, they're doing clowning, they're doing other things, or they're getting specific things that they're doing, like you're very specific. But at the end of the day, it's a business and you're
Mhm.
an entertainer, right? And it's funny because salespeople, not that they're being fake necessarily, okay, well, hopefully they're not, okay, but they're on as soon as somebody comes into their space. I just bought a new car, and let me tell you, they're on, right?
Yep.
And like we're on, it's very similar to that. You have to have that image and that attraction, like Vlad just shared, okay, where people will start asking you things and you don't even have to say anything. So that's what he's talking about. And I know some people have developed that and some have not. So, and we'll get into the classes and what he's going to be talking about in a little bit, but Vlad is so specifically unique. When we were in Boston, he was the official vampire of Salem mass, and it was amazing. And he had all kinds of shows and stuff, and I helped him at that. It was amazing, and people really know who he is because he's developed that brand and that character, if you will. But he dresses it all the time. He acts it all the time. He is it, and that's what he's trying to share with you. And that's marketing, branding, and thinking out of the box. And I love what you said, Vlad, because this is about stretching people to do better and to wow their clientele and to give them that whole like, oh my gosh, and then they're buying. Like I know, Vlad, when someone hires you, they're hiring you, not just any magician. It's like I have
Yeah.
the one and only, okay, at my event. So therefore, they don't care what the price is that they really want. You know what I'm saying? It just
They're
doesn't.
they're 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 buying the experience. I mean,
Yeah.
when I worked with Sean Phoenix and Danny Greenwolf in Salem, we
Hmm.
decided one year to try, and they wanted to do street magic. You
Hmm.
know, that night we were going to be at Fright Kingdom in New Hampshire, but
Hmm.
during the day we were
Oh
doing
yeah,
street
I went
performing.
there with you.
And Danny and Sean were busting their like back doing street magic and everything else, and all the stuff that comes with performing on the street. And Sean sort of gave me the look, and he's like, "Well, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Standing here." And he's like, "Yeah,
Exactly.
you're just having people take pictures with you." I go, "Yep." I go, "You just broke your back doing a straitjacket escape and sweating and everything else and really working." I said, and I'm standing here next to a sign that says, "Take your picture with Vlad, King of the New England Vampires." I go,
Yeah.
"You got a $5 tip for doing a straitjacket escape?" Someone just handed me a 20 for taking a
Yeah.
picture. I go, "Who's smarter?"
Exactly. Now, I'm going to say this to everybody watching this, Vlad, because I know you can't say this about yourself. Vlad is the most approachable, genuine guy. He really is, and he has no ego at all. But I'm going to tell you this right now. When he walks in a room, everybody floors to him, and people know he's there, and he has such a great presence. I call Vlad. Uh, Hopefully, this is not a bad analogy, Vlad. The male version of Elvira, okay, meaning like you just people just he's Halloween, okay,
Yeah.
and people want to be around him. They want to take their picture, and that is exactly who he is and how he does that persona. And again, it's you've done it so well, you know.
It's like that's where that was part of my, like I said, my inspiration. People go, "Well, what magicians have inspired you?" I go, "Well, I spent a lot of time with Eugene and Max." I go, "But personally, I always drew more inspiration from Vincent Price."
Okay,
And anytime you saw Vincent Price, whether it was on, a talk show or anything, he was Vincent Price.
yeah.
Even if he was doing an advertisement, Vincent Price put out like 4 cookbooks. He also used to be like the purchaser back in the day. Sears and Roebuck had in their catalog a section where you could buy art. And
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
Vincent Price
I
was
know
the
that.
person that pointed them in the direction of finding new artists that they could sell their work through this catalog. So he was an art connoisseur and he was like a master chef.
Yeah,
But in any of that stuff, he was still Vincent Price.
yeah,
No matter what he was doing, he left his mark as Vincent Price. And that's what I always wanted to do, sort of like make sure that when you walked into a room, people were like, "I don't know who that guy is, but
yeah.
he's interesting, or he's
Yes.
creepy. Creepy not in
No,
a like,
no. Yeah, yeah. Oh, some
don't leave
people.
your children with him, but creepy. I have to be careful because back in the Addams Family and Munster days,
Hmm.
creepy was okay.
Yeah.
Now if you say creepy, it's like, uh-oh, like that's
Yes.
kind of
People
like,
get, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's your persona, and people don't understand that. But
no.
once you get to know Vlad, you're like, you love him. It's funny. So many people are excited that you're coming, but I'll get into that in a minute. On different people just talking. I was talking to this woman named Wendy who's coming with her little kid, and she goes, I don't know where he gets this from. He wants skeletons and he wants all this stuff. She goes, and was telling her about you. She goes, oh my God, he's gonna love him. I go, oh, definitely. So it's just interesting. The excitement about Halloween and having you there.
Yeah.
Um, so okay, so Vlad even was on the, if you can talk a little bit about, I know we did this before too, but you were on the History Channel. You were asked to be in a reality show, which I don't know what happened with that. I don't think it worked out. You had your own doll made of you, or doll, or
Okay. Model kit.
model GI Joe, whatever. I
Yeah.
don't know what you call it.
Yeah.
It was like no way.
I was on the
Yeah.
Canadian Broadcast Channel, which is like their version of Discovery, on the uh
Okay.
on the documentary about Mystery School.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. I was on one of, I don't know, went back and forth between the Learning Channel and Discovery. Like I'm in like two or three of the scenes. They don't talk to me, but they use footage of me
Of course.
for like Great Works of Magic, which was a whole documentary about magic. And it was on like sort of like it was stuck in the like sideshow strange magic like portion of like the documentary.
Yeah.
Um, I was in like one of the things. I don't think the editing didn't because they wanted me to do magic and I did the haunted key, which is basically where the key turns over. And I don't think it was like a documentary about the anniversary of Dracula. So I had a story with like Dracula with this, but I don't think it moved quick enough for them. It's the same
Right.
way I was on TV in Baltimore when we were doing the International Edgar Allan Poe Festival,
Oh, yeah.
and the guy said, "Oh well, and he's like, I want you and Vince to be on here so we can talk to you at the Edgar Allan Poe house and you can do some magic." So I show up there at 4 o'clock in the morning, and the guy's like, "So what do you have that's a minute or less?" And I'm like, "Hi, I do storytelling magic. Like
Right.
in a story, like you're barely able to like know the characters in the first minute."
Right.
And he goes, "Well, do something." And I did a thing about like them finding in all the other authors that were in the deck of cards, they found Edgar Allan Poe. And then
Right.
he's, "Well, I really like that. When we come back from commercial, can you do something else? But it needs to be 30 seconds or less." And I'm like,
Good luck. Yeah.
so I tried to do the key and he's like, "Well, it needs to turn quicker, and I'm like, okay, I don't know what to tell you." So,
Yeah.
so I think that's what happened with the like, great books of literature, the Dracula thing. It just was too long. And like I said, I did the like VIP premiere for Clive Barker and MGM at
Yeah.
Webster Hall in New York City for Lord of Illusions.
Yeah.
So I've done a
Wow.
lot of that stuff. And then for when you mentioned Snape, I did
Yeah.
like a couple of appearances at Barnes and Noble as Professor Snape.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
this was before like they started saying because I was hired by Barnes and Noble. So I think that was their past because I know there was a thing before that people were getting trouble for like, you know, Warner Brothers was trying to sue people for doing Harry Potter shows. But you know what? Barnes and Noble hired me as a persona. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Wow.
but
So interesting, Vlad.
couple of like off Broadway plays and stuff. And I used to laugh because people go, "I did off Broadway," and I'm like, "Where did you do a off Broadway?" And they're like, "Well, it was about 300 miles north in Putnam County," and I go, "Not really off Broadway. That's
Yeah.
called community theater." And they
Yeah.
go, "Well, where did you perform?" I go, "When I walked outside the theater, if I turned my head to the right, the Majestic Theater was there with Phantom of the Opera." So, like, that's off Broadway. When you can turn and 200 feet down the street is Broadway, that's off Broadway.
Yeah.
So,
No, for sure. Amazing. You amazing stuff you done. I love it. It's funny. And we talked about this before. When you came into the magic group, which all these magic clubs are all dying out, as everybody knows, it's a bunch of old men in the group.
Yeah.
And they've been around for a long time. And thank God, because, like, I share my story, how I got started in balloons. Mr. Bentley, who knew Ray Goulet and all that at 10 years
Mhm.
old, he performed at my elementary school at a magic show, and he gave me a balloon. And I called him, and he took me to his house, went through all kinds of things, brought me to the Magic Arts studio where I met Ray Goulet, and then eventually he told me to go to the Louis Tana Magic Camp, which I did do, right, because of him, and learned all those things. Anyway,
Yep.
talking about Ray Goulet, who's passed on, and rest his soul, and all these other guys that we all got to know. I got to know him at a young age, and Vlad, was probably outside of me the youngest in the group as well at that time, right? I would say they're all like 70,
Yeah,
80.
which is scary as a vampire that I was the youngest one in the
Yeah,
group.
yeah, yeah.
I
So
think some of the other people went to school with Moses, but that's okay.
yeah, for sure, and for real. And it was an interesting group. They had some, like everything else, there's pros and cons, right? A lot of them weren't, necessarily performing all the time, but Ray Goulet particularly knew his stuff. And he did like you, Vlad, in terms of he would always say, it's about the showmanship. And he drilled that into me since I was 10 years old, and he talked about all these old magicians and old performers, kind of like what you're saying. It's just that you don't hear this much anymore, okay? And it's like there's all these old guys, let's say old guys, are passing away and they're not able to say it or show it. But when you really look at it, it's kind of like, Vlad, wouldn't you say, what's old is new, right? I would say that.
That was the thing when I used to start going to magic stores.
Yeah,
I'd be, they're like, oh, this is what, Copperfield did on his last thing, and this is what David Blaine did, and this is what Chris Angel's going to do. And I go, where do you have like the drawers that has stuff like that nobody has touched for like the past 15 years? I want like things that people have forgotten about because it's not about like buying the trick as it is. The trick as it is marketed for a lot of tricks are marketed for someone just starting out.
yeah,
Therefore, they have patter, they have like instructions on how not to break whatever's in there, and they have like this is the framework of how you should present it. I always thought it should just include what the framework is on how not to break it. Because you should
right.
already, when you see something, the wheel should be turning in the back of your mind on how you can incorporate that into your show and
Updated, yeah.
how you're going to present it. Because otherwise, to be perfectly honest, it's going to end up in a drawer someplace and it'll show up at a magic auction because you didn't do anything with it for a year. Like,
Exactly.
oh, it looked really cool when the guy demoed it. Yep, it
Right,
did. And you were watching him do it. Doesn't mean that it's going to look the same when you do it.
right.
It's like as an actor, I could probably pull off coming on stage and convincing people that I was an elf. Would it?
Yeah,
It would take so much acting, like concentration, that it would take away from the presentation for me because I'm trying to keep up that mask and it wouldn't flow naturally. I mean, that's why I sort of like strayed away now from like being a vampire archetype because the media has gone from the Bela Lugosi, Christopher Lee, like sort of character, even Bram Stoker's Dracula is like ancient history to some.
mm.
And they're now like people think that vampires are from Twilight. So it's like I'm not androgynous. I
Right,
don't sparkle. Like I don't sit in a corner and mope. My biggest like worry in life is not whether or not I have a girlfriend. It's like sort of like all of this crap that like media has put on it where you have to be like 63 pounds,
yeah,
soaking wet, and look like David Bowie. You know what? Like
yeah,
David Bowie was David Bowie. It's the same way as like Robert Plant. You're not going to find another Robert Plant. You're not going to find. So
right.
why are you trying to emulate that image? So now it's more of sort of a dark, ethereal presence, sort of not a ghost hunter, but a goat, what they used to call back in the day, a ghost detective, which meant
Right.
that it was somebody that was researched and well read that went to haunted places to find out why there was a haunting. Not, I'm going to bring doodads and gadgets and see if I can catch them on film. They were like, why is this house haunted? What is the origin of the haunting? And how can we appease the spirit that's haunting this house? Sort of that thing. So I'm sort of a more of an ethereal, dark presence than specifically a vampire.
Right.
I
Right.
mean, Vince keeps telling me, he goes, you should just be Satan. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think that'll sell a lot of shows.
Right, right, right. And that's his persona, guys. Some people are like, oh my God, he's so evil. He's not. It's his persona, not to
Yeah.
confuse anybody watching it. People
Yeah.
get confused. It's just
They
funny.
probably have, if they were bothered by it, they probably shut it off within the first 5 minutes. So
You're probably right. You're probably right. Yeah, exactly. So, okay. Was there anything we forgot about your career that you want to share before we go on? There's a few more things I want to ask you in a second, but anything
um
what you've done that we
what
that
have I
we
you
mentioned?
know, this is always the part, it's like I'll sit at a magic club
I
meeting
know.
and somebody's been in magic for like a year and they're like, and I want this and I want this and I'm the
Yeah.
grand imperial poobah. And then
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going, yeah, and I performed for Clive Barker and
Yeah.
worked with Jeff McBride. So
Yeah. And I want to just add to that, Vlad, because I know you, and I know your character. He is not that type of person at all. It's like he's just not him, and he just wants to share and stuff. But it's so true.
I'm like, if somebody wants to know, they'll ask me. I don't need to
Yeah.
throw it out there.
Right.
It's like, because
Right.
otherwise, it's like things you've done. It's like I've been given opportunities. So thankfully,
Yeah.
you know, it has been good experiences.
Yeah.
It's like I've done, I don't sit out there and go, oh, I've performed for the March of Dimes. Have I? Yes.
Yeah.
Have I done like A, B, and C? I performed at Bard College,
Yeah.
which is an arts college up in upstate New York.
Right.
Um, Performed like lots of places in New York City. So it's like sort of, I've done things. So it's like, but if you want to know, oh yeah, I'll tell you. But
Yeah.
I don't want to brag about it because it's like they were opportunities that worked out well for me that I spoke about and did and performed and
Yeah.
so
No,
I
for
did them.
sure. And
No,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
no. It's just sort of like, you make the best out of like opportunities you're given. And
Mhm.
that's why I sort of like, if somebody needs like something, if they ask, like I have no problem sharing, it's like, I mean, there was a young gentleman that started coming to like our pose magic and the East Coast Spirit sessions. And he's like, well, I want to do, more gothic stuff. Like, do you have a problem? I'm like, I coined the term. I go, I don't have a franchise of it. I said, but like you walk the walk. So like I have no problem with you doing it. I mean, D. Christopher, who's a mentalist in England, said to me, he's like, well, you're not really using the vampire character anymore. Do you have a problem? He goes, because I'm kind of gothic. And I go ahead, go for it. So now he's like D. Christopher, psychic vampire. And I'm like, whatever, like you're probably 25 and you fit more what the media perceives as a vampire than I do. So go run with it.
Yeah.
Be blessed, my friend.
Yeah. I want to circle back to something you said a little bit ago about tricks and buying a trick and kind of like, how we all kind of start out. And for folks that are watching this, it's the analogy I'm going to use is with balloons. And this actually I got from Royal Sorrel. Although I never really sat down with him and asked him to do any balloons. We were just, as you know, friends with the magic community.
Sure.
He did observe me when I first, started being at events with him when he came to my events. I actually had hired him out, and
He
he
was a good
said,
guy.
"Oh yeah, oh absolutely,
Yeah.
we're friends," and we'll talk about that in a second. Um, so he called me a formula guy. And I went from the one balloon zoo, learning balloons on my own, right, with the magic, shop, Ray Goulet and all that, to finding out about the convention that he had. Okay, and I went years ago, and he just said, "You're a formula guy." Well, we all start off that way. So just like magic, you start off by buying your magic sets with a pattern. Okay,
Yep.
Until you create it yourself and change it up, then it kind of becomes yours or add to it. Just like a balloon, which I know you don't really know about balloons except you like them, Vlad, which we
Yeah,
appreciate. Same thing. You start with a formula and then you kind of recreate and start making something original to yourself. So folks are watching this. It's the same thing. Saying it's just kind of like learning and making it yourself. So I just wanted to circle back. And by the way, about Royal, while we're talking about it, as you know, you were friends with him too, and Royal had mentioned to me, I don't know, I want to be friends with Vlad, and why you two are so close? And he didn't understand why you and I were such good friends, right? It was the magic meeting. He would always be like calling me, can we hang out? And of course, I always, as you know, called him to invite him to the magic meeting. He thanked me for that. Was I never asked him how to make any balloons, and right
yeah.
before he died, he called me and was like on the phone with me for a long time. It was just like, wow, about how I never asked him to learn any balloons or anything like that, just been his friend. And you were at his house and stuff, and he wanted to be friends with you and all that. So we were at years ago, way before Bling Bling Jam, we were at a Twist and Shout, and Jeff McBride was doing a master class. And I had asked Royal because Jeff was asking me about you if you can come in, and I said, "Can he come in?" And he said yes, and he let you in. He didn't let anybody in, and it was kind of neat. So you kind of had a feel of the balloon world then. And then we had you at Bling Bling Jam 2 years ago. And I know
Mhm.
that and then you had me do balloons at your haunted convention or something up in New Hampshire, I think it was. I
Yep.
don't remember where
Fight
we
Kingdom.
the
Yep.
Fright Kingdom. Yeah, and that was a
Yep.
great experience. I thank you for that. And everybody was into it. I was teaching them how to make, I think, skull and bones and a few things, and we had a lot of fun.
Yep.
But so you are how do I say this? You don't make balloons, but you're definitely somebody who appreciates different forms of art and or artists and or performers because you really do ask a lot of questions. Like you actually are interested, which is what I like about you because you're
Yeah,
interested
because
in
it's like
everything.
we're all entertainers. Like, be you
Yeah.
a juggler or a magician or a mime or a clown or a balloon twister.
Hmm.
Like, people are looking for the experience. And it's like people are like sort of like in this more for their money mindset. So you could have someone that's really technically proficient doing like amazing balloon twists. But if you have somebody right like next to them that has really cool costuming and music and does like slightly like less of a technical thing,
Yeah,
people inherently, unfortunately, are going to go for more of the package
they are.
because it's more of the experience. They feel it's like sort of, not everybody wants to go to Universal Studios water park.
Yeah,
They want to go to like the Harry Potter thing or like Epic Adventure,
the
or when they go to
experience.
Disney, there's people that are willing to like pay money to go to the Bippity Boppity Boo boutique and,
Yeah,
get a princess makeover. It's like they want the whole experience. So, and I mean, that's like, a lot of times when people see them doing something, they're like, well, I don't want to do spooky magic. And I'm not there to like make you a clone of me because that would be sort of like counterproductive for me to teach people my show so they can do the show cheaper than I will. It's like I'm looking to make
right.
like a better show for them.
Hmm.
It's like how to get them to get more money in their market because
Hmm.
I'm not crossing over. I'm
Yeah,
I'm
right.
still I'm still in that phase where you tell me to bend a balloon in half, I'm worried it's going to break. So it's like sort of like I'm
Yeah,
not going to
but
do 18
but you
different
will pose with a
twists.
balloon. You've done that before. You will pose with one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like sort of like, you know what? But it's like sort of like I'm not doing like,
No.
twist this, poke this through, put this in the inside of the other balloon and make another twist to lock it down.
Well,
No, because it's gonna break.
well,
It's like,
well, we do want to teach you how to make at least a hot dog. Maybe we can do that.
I make a worm.
Okay. Yeah. There's Patrick, he's got the haunt background. He's our coordinator in the jam room, and he's so happy you're coming. So
Yeah.
he's gonna
We
hang
we
out with
did
you.
the like what was it the one year
Yeah.
like I forget when it was we did the balloon onk.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah, that was cool. That was
yeah,
cool. By the way, speaking about Judy Johnson came last year, and she's so excited she's coming that you're coming again. She'll be back there this year, and she was also a friend and worked with
Yep.
Royal as well, and knew you well as well. And she had the same phone call from Royal as
It
like
was
I.
all like, I mean, it's like sort of like the SAM up in Salem was like sort
Mhm.
of like combination of magicians, clowns,
Yes,
twisters,
yeah,
like anybody that entertained. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be like, well, you
exactly.
do this. You know what? Like my wife
Yeah,
Brigitta
yeah. We're gonna talk about
years
that in a
ago,
second. Yeah,
like did like magic with ballet mixed in, but she also did like a clown character named Patches and did
yeah,
balloons.
yeah.
So it's like sort
Wow,
of like,
amazing.
it's like sort of like you can't like you can judge them by the quality of their character, but not like what
Yeah,
they choose as their medium.
yes,
And it's like and it's like if you have skills like that I'm offering to everybody else, if
yes,
you have skills to help them make a better performance,
yeah.
anytime performances are better,
You're more
it helps
sellable,
the entire
right?
population of entertainers because people don't go, I hired so and so and he was horrible.
Yeah, exactly. And we want to raise the bar and teach our clients what we're worth and always do better. And this is why some people, like, especially the balloon people, oh, I don't need to go to a convention. It costs me too much money. They're missing the point. It's actually they're
Yeah,
losing money by not coming. And they're doing lower events. And they say that because when you make enough money and you know your true value and you up your game and you get with this and we with the right people that all want don't want to try to sell you for every minute. Nothing wrong with selling stuff, but just to talk to you and pick your brain, you're not around the right people because
yeah.
people who are successful don't do that. What they
But
do
they're
is,
missing they're
yeah,
missing sort of like they're missing I mean there are conventions that you go to that basically it's an expanded dealer show.
yeah,
But
yeah,
a good convention that they haven't probably if they're throwing that out there they haven't experienced a
right,
good convention is a great mixture of availability of stuff that you probably wouldn't be able to get and come home with, like as far as products,
yeah,
and the learning
and the right
experience,
people, right,
and seeing performances to be inspired by or builds that you're inspired by. And then the last quantity is having fellowship with people of like mind to be able to sit down and share stories
exactly,
with and spend time with. All of those things come together to make a good convention, which we've sort of like cashed in on that thought process with my two conventions.
yes,
I mean, and people go, oh, well, is so and so going to be there as a dealer? No, because
right,
you just want to sell stuff. They don't want to,
exactly. I don't want those people at my event. I mean, right, exactly. They go to all the other events,
you want them to
right,
cash in and add to the experience rather
the
than
value.
sitting there going, why aren't people buying stuff?
Exactly. We have balloon brands that don't get it either, and they really don't get it. They think they do, but they don't. And it's okay, what I'm saying,
Yeah,
but we're the consumer, right? And we're and we can buy from who we want and what we want. So we have a lot more power on that avenue. But we also want unique stuff, and we want people on the same page that are
yeah,
going to support us, but also have a bigger picture as to what we're trying to drive of a better value to our customers, and then they do the same thing. It's a win-win. So
yeah.
it's common sense, but not too common anymore, right?
And that's the problem. It's like
Yeah,
sort of like people view stuff through different filters, and it's like sometimes really hard to like break through these walls they've created, and it's
yeah,
like you try and explain it to them, and they're just like, I mean, years ago, like before I moved to like North Carolina, one of the guys that owned the magic store was like, "Oh, well, I'd love to have you come down because of all the stuff you've done and do a lecture, for our magic club, but none of those guys are interested." I go, "Well, then it's their loss."
yeah, yeah,
It's like sort of
yeah,
like I can only like, you know, talk to people that are willing to listen. It's like if you're
yeah.
not willing to listen, like it's like the saying, it's like don't try and teach Shakespeare to a pig because you're only going to waste your time and annoy the pig. So it's
Yeah, exactly. And we're going to get into that too about, what you have to offer, which is amazing. But
yeah,
all right. So And we discussed this, guys, beforehand. Just so you know, Vlad and I are good friends, and he mentioned his wife, Brigida. And I want to share with you guys what happens, and then how Vlad feels about sharing, because you're going to find out anyway. So, he met this, wonderful human being, and I say that because I never met her, but I liked her on the phone in mystery school 30 years
Yeah.
ago. I was invited to the wedding. I was so honored to be, and I couldn't make it in November, and I so regret it. She passed away, and they were, a few months back, and they were going to do, they both were going to come to Bling Bling Jam. They were really excited about it. We were going to do a balloon Halloween wedding, was the whole thing, and it was just crazy. And Vlad just lost his mom. And I said to him, "Look, I totally understand if you can't make it, don't feel like it." And he said, "No, Brigida wanted to be there, and I know she did. She was excited about it, and he wants to be with us." But anyway, and it's just one of those things. But it's life, and it's
We met 30
yeah,
years ago at mystery school.
yeah,
And we were unfortunately at that time like with the wrong people that we shouldn't have been with.
yeah.
So we sort of both went our separate ways and we never forgot each other. And then 2023, she decided she's like, I'm getting a divorce and I've never forgotten about you. So if I move down there, would you be willing to like see if we can reconnect? We reconnected and then we got married in a civil ceremony in October, and then we had like a haunted mansion wedding
hmm
in November.
November, yeah,
It's like, and I had asked her to marry me at Disney World at the haunted mansion.
yeah,
Um, and then she died in January.
right,
So, and then my mother died last Thursday.
right.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great year.
No, I know. And I can relate to that, as you know, bad
Yeah.
year last year. And I asked you, Vlad, if you still feel like coming, you're like, no, I need to come. And
Well, she wanted to be there so bad. And it's like sort of like her big thing when we bought this house was sort of twofold, was that actually threefold. She wanted a home where we could start over. That
yeah,
was ours. And she made sure that whatever place we had the room behind you, um, which was my magic space, because she said, I can't wait to see like what's gonna happen when you have your own space to create and have everything laid out the way you want it to, and you can flourish as a performer.
right.
And then she said, and there'll be a room for your mother so we can all be together as a family in this house and like make it a home,
Yeah,
But so it's like I can't really stop doing things because it
right,
hurts,
right.
because she had faith in me and I don't want it to be like sort of,
Yeah,
have it fall by the wayside that I gave up and didn't continue the way she sort of like hoped I would.
right,
So
right. No, 100%. And, you know, um, she's with you and with us in spirit. There's no question about that. And
yeah.
she was so excited, like on the phone. I had never met her, but I was like, I felt like I knew her. She was amazing. She did balloons and all that. I was like, oh, you're gonna fit right in. And we were
Yeah.
so excited about it. And she was like
She
thrilled.
kidded around because she said something about, she's like, because we did a hand fasting
Hmm
last year at the Pose Magic Convention.
hmm
And then we did the legal ceremony in October
hmm
to make sure that, we were on paper and everything.
hmm
And then
Yeah.
we did the ceremony for friends and family in November. But when you had talked to us about coming out doing the balloon wedding, she goes, you know what? Like, this is the last one. She's like,
I know, right?
we already have 3 dates to remember here. Like, she's
Yeah.
like, I can't have an entire calendar of like wedding dates for us. She's like, so this will be the last wedding.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I know. And again, she'll be there in spirit. We were so
Yeah.
looking forward to that. And we thank you for still coming, because I know for me too, as you know how close I was to my mom, I had to just still come, saying, so
Yeah, my mother, unfortunately, it was like sort of like one of those things. I did the best I could for her.
I know you did.
It was like I tried to make her comfortable,
Yes.
but with the infection she had, like the MRSA,
Hmm.
was like her quality of life was horrible. Like,
Yeah.
I had to keep giving her antibiotics and like sort of like that. She couldn't really get around. It got infected the pacemaker. So it was like sort of like unfortunately all I could do was make her comfortable and like know that she wasn't alone. So
Right. Right.
mm,
Well, you're gonna have a good time at Bling Bling Jam for sure, and we're gonna make sure of that, and we're super excited to have you, and I think it's gonna be great.
yeah.
Um, the point is, everybody, we're all human, and we're all going through something, and everybody's real. No one's fake here, and that's the thing. And I hope that you guys take that and also show Vlad some love on comments and stuff. I'd love to see that, of course.
I
Um,
mean, and that's one of the things like when I talk about like building a character or theming a show,
mhm.
it's like the farther away you go from what inspires you, what drives you, your passions, the more artificial it becomes. And I'm not saying you can't pull it off, but it's a trade-off. Like if things flow naturally, they will become more authentic to the audience and they respond better to that.
Yeah.
It's like because if you have to do something, you know what? Christopher Lee, when he was like, I don't know, 85 years old, did a heavy metal album.
Oh,
You know
yeah.
what? But there's not very many people at 85 can do a heavy metal album.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Like, do what's in your ballpark. You know what? Like, don't run when they're not chasing you. Don't make life harder on yourself. Find ways to make you a better you
Yeah.
and therefore have it organically make more money for you rather than trying to say, what's the flavor of the month? Oh,
Exactly.
and there's like so many people that's like, oh,
It comes across as
Teletubbies
so
are
fake.
popular,
You
or
know what I
Bill
mean?
or Bob the Builder's
Right.
popular, or so and so. So they have to have a show for everything that's the flavor of the month. And then 2 months from now, that show's not popular anymore. So now they got to create another show. It's like make a show that drives you, that you're happy to do. I mean, there's no worse feeling than like having to go perform something that you absolutely hate.
Yeah.
Like do stuff that you love and that invigorates you. I mean, that was one of the things with Vito Lupo was
Yeah.
like you could see the passion in the performance when he did stuff. And he was one of the first ones, I think. I might be wrong because I'm not a bubble historian,
Yeah.
but I think he was one of the first ones that did bubbles that you could actually manipulate, like
Yeah.
blow a bubble and actually be able to like hold it on a glove and things. So do stuff that drives you. And at the end of the day, you're going to go, I get paid for doing stuff I love.
Exactly. No,
So,
spot on. Spot on. So, Vlad, okay, let's talk about Bling Bling Jam and what you're gonna do there this time, and let me explain this to everybody so they understand. And I said this before, but I have to repeat it again. Vlad is going to teach two classes, one in character development that he did before, and also how to create a show because there's so much new information on this. It's a continuous thing. Most people don't teach this stuff. And I don't know many people that live their character like you do. It's interesting. Uh, you know, um,
not that aren't in asylum someplace.
Right. And he's not trying to make you become him by any means. He wants you to become you. So we
Yeah.
have people like Cecilia, who's an incredible balloon artist, and we have this competition called Top Dog, okay? And it makes you get out of your comfort zone and create a show. And she did that so well a couple years ago. It was incredible. And there's so many other people too that push themselves, like Katrina, who's legally blind, and she just won Top Dog last year. Okay, where there's a part of that is a show. Aaliyah, who's won it as well, and she's going for it again. She's did really
Yeah.
well for her mom. There's so many people, and of
Yeah.
course, Judy's going for it, and Nancy, and there's other people that are coming on the scene to do it as well. But there's also magicians who come to Bling Bling Jam that just love all magic, like Michael Mothy, and of course, people that do balloon shows like Nick the Balloonatic, who's really pretty successful and does some great things. So they all value, what you do. And there's been other people really into the haunted stuff that came a couple years ago. Lavinia, she really liked your stuff, and of course, there was other people that really got into it. that really said, "Wow, this is really really cool."
Mhm.
So, and Angie and different other people. So I know that. Well, let me let you talk about. And I know you'll be doing some other things, and you might not even know where it actually goes, but it depends upon what people want to hear as well in your
Yeah.
classes. And I get that.
I mean, it's all about like what they need, because
Yeah,
it's like I mean, as an actor, performer, entertainer, magician,
yeah,
um, you need to know the parameters of your character. I mean, and that was why it's sort of like I don't ever do. I enjoy watching other people do them. I don't do coin tricks
right,
because within the framework of my biography character,
yeah.
there's no reason for me to touch coins.
Like Mickey Silver from Magical Blues in Vegas, who's a good friend of ours. Yes, that's his.
And it works for him because
That's all he
that's
does.
where his
Yeah,
niche is. But
yeah.
it's like sort of like as an aristocratic character,
Hmm.
sort of visually based in the Victorian times,
Hmm.
you wouldn't touch money. You have a valet that takes care of all of that stuff. So why would you care about a coin? And
Yeah,
people go, well, maybe it was a memento. And I go, what memento would you carry a coin from? I go, the only thing that I can think of is like Jack the Ripper. And like, okay, so am I Jack the Ripper? Like that's off a whole nother thing. It's like so I couldn't find a justification for it. And it's like sort of like you have to and if you have a constructed biography, it doesn't have to be long, but you just sort of know what drives your character, where is your character from, what time period is your character from, what do they care about, like what is their heart's desire and what would they be willing to do to get it.
yeah.
So all those things help you. I mean, I've had people came to me like when I lived in New York and like, oh, I want to do the New York Renaissance Fair. And I go, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to be Merlin. Oh, that hasn't been done before. It's like, okay,
Right.
you want to be Merlin. And then I go, so what are you going to perform? And they show me like 10-year-old magic props. I go, you know
Oh,
what?
right.
Merlin doesn't use plastic.
Yeah.
They go, well, what are
Right.
you going to do? I go, well, there's an effect called the Okido doll, which is a little straw doll that basically
Oh,
lifts up off your hand.
Danny,
So
Danny taught that at
go
the
up.
Magic Club, right? Danny? Yeah,
Yeah.
I bought that from him. Yeah.
I go, so you know what you do? You take the gimmick out of the straw doll and you put it in the bottom of a leaf. And you talk about how nature, and we're all surrounded by nature, but nature
Right.
has a cycle, and sometimes leaves fall off the trees, but the leaf is not part of the tree anymore, but the leaf still is willing to want to live. And you lay
Yeah.
the leaf on your hand, and all of a sudden now the leaf stands up and is like looking at the sunlight. Now that fits into what Merlin believed as a druid, that life is a circle and that nature surrounds us. Instead of just, I have a plastic prop. Okay. Well, plastic doesn't exist at a Renaissance fair unless you're with those guys that are making believe they're from Star Trek. It's like, so you have to find what works within your own predetermined character, and then you can start thinking, why is this piece meaningful? And that's even like sort of when you're going to come up with a story, you don't have to have one. But if you had a sentence about why one balloon animal is better than another one,
Yeah.
people would be more entertained. You
Hmm.
go, you know what? I get tired of making dogs. So one day I sort of yanked on the top of the dog's head and it stretched out like this. Now I'm making giraffes. It's like sort of like people go, oh, that's kind of interesting.
Right.
It's like, it's stupid, but it's it, they'll stand there
Right.
and listen to it. And it's like, now it's interesting because it's the same body, but now it has a long nap and it's a giraffe. Okay. It's like, I mean, I joked around with Doc Hilford about, I was at one of his conventions and he had a videotape that was like 20 minutes with a balloon.
Oh, wow.
And he put it out like this is back in the VHS video days. And
Right.
he's like,
We're
well,
dating
this would be good
ourselves.
too. And I go, I don't do anything with balloons.
Yeah.
So he had a raffle at the end of like the convention where he would give stuff away, sort of like a door prize raffle. And his daughter was there who was like 6 years old and she was picking the things. And then it came time where 20 minutes with a balloon came up. And then he's like, she went to reach in and he just went, save Vlad. And she goes, what? He goes, just save Vlad. And it's like sort of like she goes, I got to pick the thing. And he goes, never mind what the ticket says, just save Vlad. And she goes, and Vlad won it. And he goes, well, now you have 20 minutes with a balloon. So now I have to see what you're going to do with that 20 minutes with a balloon. I go, yep. I said, here's my 20 minutes. I make 18 animals. They all look like a worm,
Right.
but they're not. This is a worm. This is a snake. This is a maggot. This is a
Yeah.
black worm. He's very like rare and collectible. I go,
Aw,
so,
that's funny.
you
Wow.
know, but
Yeah.
so you
So,
just got to make sure that like, it's like, I mean, and that's the whole thing is
mhm,
trying to find that way to make you even more unique with the character, or I mean, even if you want to be whatever your name is, if you want to just perform as you,
yeah.
there are things to make you more mystifying and magical as you. Because you know what? Like many people didn't realize Clark Kent was Superman.
Yeah.
So you know what? Clark Kent had to have different attributes than Superman. So you have to make the two distinctly different. So if you want to perform as you, then you have to make it like where when you get out of the car, there's a more magical you or a
Mm-hmm.
more performance like amped level.
Mm-hmm. No,
So,
spot on. And I love that with everything you said because I believe that when people go through this or they do it again with you, that they're really gonna improve themselves.
well,
Now,
some they didn't know what to ask. And some of them, I
yeah,
think, were a little afraid to speak up. So
yes. You get that, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, I don't know. I'm not going to like jump over the table and
Yeah.
bite you.
Bob will go out to coffee with you and to lunch and all that, and he'll talk for hours and you can pick his brain.
Especially if they're buying the coffee. I
Yeah,
go,
right. Exactly. Exactly. And or the lunch.
yeah.
But Vlad is actually such a good resource, guys. It's incredible. Like, I mean, it's just the knowledge you have, what you're willing to share. But let me ask you this. So, would you say, in your humble opinion, let's say somebody either took your class 2 years ago, they're coming back and they're revamping whatever. So you have character development and you have how to create a show. So whether they have a character or not, you kind of answer this is one thing. But if they do, that probably should come first before the show creation comes because you want to, or is that the order or not really?
Yeah, because you have to know why you're doing that show.
Yeah.
You have to know what you're doing. And I mean, people don't like understand that there are perceived things that people see when we perform something. I mean, metaphysically, if we want to go into like the woo-woo world,
Yeah.
when someone performs the magic trick cut and restored rope,
Yeah.
that psychologically is a metaphor, which is that nothing in the universe can be destroyed.
Hmm.
Everything can be recreated and put back whole to what it was. So
Yeah.
that's like sort of like this metaphysical backstory of the cut and restored rope. And most people are like, I just cut the rope and make sure that this pink thing is the flash. Don't cut that, cut the white part. It's like, okay, we've
Yeah.
all heard the jokes. It's like,
Yeah. So, in the balloon world, everybody watching this, like magicians, but I think the balloon people are interested in this way. We all have a name. Like I will meet people that ask me about balloons that don't know anything about it. Well, what's your stage name? I'm Mr. Balloon Wizard. Then I
yep,
talk about Natalie Miss Ballooniverse or Nick the Balloonatic. And everyone's like, okay, what do you guys think you are, rappers? And I guess in a way, it's funny. So the balloon people are good with that, but they don't all have a show. Nick has a great show. He teaches it and a lot of people. And I know that you have shared with me and from the Magic Club with Ray Bentley and all those people that the balloons are just your prop. Okay, if you want to. So it doesn't mean people watching this are coming to Bling Bling, whether it's in person or virtual, needs to become a magician. They can actually create a show with the character with the prop of the balloons.
yep.
Right.
And it's the same way, like sort of like most actors like want to see before they go out for the first performance, They want to see the props that are in their environment because they need to know what those objects mean to them. Like, sort of like, is this my couch? Where do I sit in this room? Why am I sitting there? Is there a reason why the script says, I don't like so and so? You know, am I
Yeah.
supposed to look and there's supposed to be a window there, but the stage company couldn't afford a window. So do I still see the window? Or is, it's like all of those subtexts that you sort of like have to do. The balloon is for lack of a better sense, your canvas. It's like if an artist picks something up, they make a predetermined choice whether they're going to use certain paints, certain
Yeah.
brushes, and certain canvases. So
Yeah.
the choice you make about the brand, even the color of the balloon,
Yeah.
is going to make a difference in like how you relate to it. You might pick a balloon up and it's like mauve,
Yeah.
and you hate mauve, and all of a sudden you pick that balloon up, you're going to go,
Yeah.
and it's like you could make that part of the bit. Make it where like I mean, an easy thing to do would be to have a pouch that has all the different colors, but
Yeah.
have a section in the back that has only one color. And you pull that color out, and it's like whatever color you hate. And you start to blow it up, and it pops. And then all of a sudden, you reach in, and they think you're getting another color, and you take the other color, the same color back out, and you look at it disgusted, and you're like, why do they keep sending me this color?
Yeah. Right. Right.
And that's a funny bit where people are going to laugh. You know what? Like, and if
Yeah.
they're being entertained, they will
Yeah.
tip more.
Oh, 100%. I love
So,
that. That's a great analogy. Wow.
yeah.
Very cool. Well, we're super excited to have you, Vlad, with everything, and it's going to be great. And I think that it's going to be another smash having you at the Bling Bling Jam and also for yourself. But
Yeah, and I mean, just sort of like one thing that I can hopefully ask is like
yeah.
anybody that's like planning on coming to either of the classes,
Hmm.
like start trying to think up questions of things that like you want to ask, like what you
Yeah.
could use my help with. And it's
Sure.
like, and it doesn't, please don't take it as like, I don't need anybody's help, because I'm
Yeah.
offering. So it's like,
You're
don't feel
honest about it.
like,
Hmm.
yeah, don't feel weird that like you have to like, oh, I don't want to have to ask for help.
It,
It's like you're just, you know what? Every other performing venue,
yeah.
like musicians, dancers, like actors, everyone else doesn't have a problem with having stage managers, producers, stage managers, like road crew, everybody else to help them pull off the show. But magicians, especially, and I don't know if it's the same with
Yeah.
balloon people,
Oh, yeah.
think that everything in the show they have to take care of. They will set their show up. They will handle the music. They
Yeah.
handle the publicity. They handle everything. And it's like, sort of like, you know what? If you're wearing 18 different hats, that means one doesn't fit properly.
Yeah, we're not all good at everything. And
Nope.
right. And the thing is, Vlad is the most non-judgmental person, and he just wants to help people. So I can tell you that from experience and being his friend, you know.
Yeah,
So
because if I didn't care, I wouldn't ask. So,
correct,
so.
correct, correct. Vlad, is there anything else that we left out that you want people watching this to know about, your classes? Why, if they, we still have a little bit of time. If they haven't made a decision to come to Bling Bling Jam, why they should, type of thing, and or anything you want to say about any of that.
Well, it's in Las Vegas. It's in a haunted hotel. So, like, there you go,
Well,
right
well,
there.
well, there's two hotels. One's haunted. I'm thinking the non-haunted ones. I can't handle it. But you're
All of Las Vegas is
yeah,
haunted. There's
yeah. That's what
bodies
they
buried
say. I don't
everywhere.
know.
So it's all,
Yeah.
they just choose to come into certain
But you
hotels.
never experienced anything when you stayed there last time. You said you didn't. I was like, wow, okay.
I didn't, but it's like sort of like what my wife used to tell me. She goes, not only like are people intimidated by you, she's like, sometimes I think the ghosts are too.
That's funny.
So it's like,
Yeah.
I've been when I was in Gettysburg, I
Yeah.
didn't see anything, I didn't hear anything, but
Hmm.
I got sensation.
Hmm.
like when I walked through the battlefield, you definitely felt like you were not where you were supposed to be.
Mhm.
Like, why am I here? You got disoriented. And then at the end of one of the nights, I started hearing drumming, and there was
Oh,
nobody around to play like Civil War drumming. So she go, and the person that was with me said, I don't hear anything. So it's like, so I know that I've had experiences, but it's like sort of like, some people play the violin, some people play the flute. So just because I didn't see anything doesn't mean that it's not there.
correct.
But it's like I know that generally, you know what? Like if you're a good person, you're not going to be an evil, nasty ghost.
Yeah.
If you're a scumbag person, you're probably going to be a scumbag ghost.
Yeah.
So it's like sort of like I don't worry about the things because you know what? Like they're just flashes of something from another era. So
Yeah.
it's like sort of like it's in Las Vegas. You're going to learn, like Steve has a good goodie bag that he gives people. Um,
Yep. It's not
yeah.
cheap.
So, um,
Yeah.
it's like you're in with people that actually want to share their work with people too. So you're in a sharing community. Like it's good fellowship. Like I didn't feel like an outsider that because I didn't do balloons. So it's like sort of like everybody's warm and welcoming. Everybody comes there to have a good time. So it's like if you're looking for something that is not the same cookie cutter as a lot of other things, you're going to find the right environment for you. And it's like
Yeah.
sort of like from what I've seen from every one of like the ones that Steve has done, it's like sort of like many people keep coming back. And it's like that's the sort of mile maker of like a good convention is that you have repeat people coming back over and over because they don't want to miss seeing and being with the people that they were there the last time with. Because there's some conventions you go to it once and you're like, been there, done that.
Yeah.
And
That's true. So what a
you got
feeling.
everything you could get out of like that
Yeah.
one shot.
You know what I
So
think was cool last time too, and I suspect this will happen again. So we have some people wanting to learn magic or that are do magic and balloons, and we have other people like talking about Lavinia, her husband Omar, just a magician, and he doesn't do balloons at all. And you kind of were jamming and talking about the magicians for a while, and just having your own like rap session, if you will, and that was kind of cool. But you actually had the time to do it, and you guys all found everything interesting. So
yeah,
so the magicians, I think that either magicians that might really want to pick your brain or whatever it is, and just really get a lot more. I think it's personally, I think you're worth the whole registration. That's my personal opinion. And then
I
other people
appreciate
that want
it.
to learn.
And it's the thing. It's like sort of like, it's like you talk about, I mean, when I spent time with one on one with like Eugene Berger,
Yeah,
like most of the time we spent together, he didn't want to talk about magic.
right. That
He
was
just
like
wanted to talk about what was the latest book you read, what was the
yeah.
last movie you saw.
That was like Broyle and I. We were friends, but a lot of people don't know that, and I know you know that because you were
Yeah.
hung out with us. We never talked about balloons ever. So it was
Nope.
the
You're
last
like, what do you think about this
really
pizza? And it was like he
right.
had definitely like his own predetermined, like, this
Yeah,
is the best pizza and I don't like the other ones because,
yeah,
so it's like talk about food, talk about and
yeah,
it's like sometimes, and it's like sort of like and I'm not gonna like try and bring things down, but
yeah,
I sort of learned from like the short period of time I had with Brigetta. It's like sort of like if you want to do something, don't put it off
yeah.
because tomorrow's not guaranteed for any of us.
Correct,
So
correct.
like do what you want to do now, get the most out of this life that you can, and have a good time and like enjoy yourself and sort of like go do things that you like to do. And it's like sort of like if you get the opportunity to hang out with people that you liked hanging out with or want to be in that same mindset of like other people, then you come and do what you can do. So it's like
Yeah.
don't put it off because
Life's too short. No, no, that was well said. That
you
was well
know,
said. Yeah.
you know.
Vlad, this is amazing. Was there anything else we left out, or I think that was the last statement. I think we can top that.
Oh,
Um, again, thank you everybody for watching, and put your comments down and your likes. Vlad will look at this when this airs. I think we're going to air this on Friday. I'm pretty sure at 1 p.m. East Coast time is
No,
the
no, we don't want to see that spooky guy.
They do though. They do. And there's a lot of people like Patrick and like I said, Wendy or Sunless Spooky Stuff. There's a lot of people that do. Hey, it's not everybody doesn't like everything, right? It is what it is. That's where the variety
You
comes
know
in.
what? I got friends like as much as I love lobster rolls, I
Yeah,
got friends that are like, you know what? It's not worth the money. I don't like them. I'm like, hey, it's a little more lobster for me. So,
exactly. Exactly. Awesome. Well, thank
yeah,
you so much, Vlad. Again, we're looking forward to seeing you in Vegas. And thank you guys all for watching. And let's bling it on everybody. Until next time, we'll see you guys soon. Over and out. Thanks so much.
you're
Bye-bye.
welcome.